Hey, how y'all doing? This is Sun 919 Truth of Sports coming to you with another segment. Let's go ahead and get right into this. This one is titled, or will be titled, talking about Kaleb Mathis, who was a sophomore wide receiver for the Colorado Buffs. Um, and what's sparking me to do this is because of the recent signing of the receiver, and I get into him later that they just signed, which made me automatically think about Caleb. So let me go ahead and get right into it. Last season, I did a segment on Caleb, and I titled it "Kaleb Mathis Emerging at the Wide Receiver Position." One of the reasons I did this segment was because I watched a lot of well-off media and reach the media, reach the people, media outlets last year, and they always showed Caleb. He was working, he was grinding. I also follow his channel. He doesn't complain. He just puts his head down and he goes to work. And a lot of college coaches love that type of player, and players love playing with guys like that just go out and just try to earn it. And then he had a couple of catches in the UCLA game last year, and they was getting blown out. But it was good to see a player like him get a chance and actually, do pretty well within that game. That made me think they could use this guy as like a slot receiver that kind of comes in underneath, almost like a fast tight end or utility player that really has no position. They just move him around. And they can find him, especially a quarterback like Shador, who's very intelligent, can really read the field. He knows how to get people involved. Um, so I saw him as that type of receiver, and that's what sparked me to do that segment. Now this year, of course, they have Travis Hunter, 1,000 yards receiver, Heisman Trophy winner. They have LeJontay Wester, 800 yards. Will Shepard, 600 yards. Jimmy Horn, Draylon Miller, an excellent freshman. Then they have Amarian Miller, who's very good. He got hurt this year, and those are the names that was there last year or this past year. Now next year you got Draylon Miller coming back. Amarion will be back. They just signed the AAC, or the American Athletic Conference Rookie of the Year, in Joseph Williams. So he's a top tier player, or appears to be a top 10 player. They just signed a top high schooler. Well, they signed a very good high schooler. I won't call him top because he's a 3-star, and that's how they judge it. But a guy named Quentin Gibson, who they just won a 6A title, state championship, and he had 100. He had 7 catches for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he was the MVP of that game. And if you know anything about Texas, of course, football is huge. It's really huge. So for him to be playing that well in a 6A division says a lot about his talent. Um, and so that leaves me with some of the things that I've been talking about in these segments, about transferring and not transferring or going into the portal. And it makes me think, now that Caleb has been there 2 years, he doesn't complain and he grinds. And they're constantly, because the wide receiver position outside of Shador, that wide receiver position is the most talented core that Colorado has in the last couple of years. It's been Shador and it's been the wide receivers, and they're restocking at the wide receiver position. And with Caleb being a wide receiver, he's not necessarily the quickest. He's definitely not big. What are their plans with him? So it makes me think: is he there for the football experience to keep playing football? Because he played football in high school. Of course, his dad is one of the coaches there. So is he staying there, or will he stay there to look at the perks of it? Like, I'm going to college. I'm going to a very good college. I'm under a team that's coached by Deion Sanders. A Hall of Famer. We're world famous at this point. We get a lot of attention at the games. I love the facilities here. My family's here, and I'm having a good time. And I'm working hard, but at the same time, I'm assuming he has a scholarship, or if not, his dad's. But either way, it's not coming out his pocket. I'm sure they work something out. So is he there for the experience? Or as he gets older, will he eventually want to try to go somewhere where he can actually play football? So he has 2 to 3. He's a sophomore. He has 2 to 3 years left, and with this extra year stuff, sometimes when you think a kid is graduating, he actually has another graduate year. So that's what I'm saying, 2 to 3 years left. So it makes me wonder what is going to happen with him and his future at Colorado. Will he just be a player, basically a practice player, which is what he is, or will he just keep grinding and hopefully by the time he's a senior, he gets some an opportunity to play because they're retooling that wide receiver position, and it'll probably be another season like this past season where he basically doesn't get into any games. It's weird because some games I saw him with a uniform on, some games I didn't see him with a uniform on. I know if you're a non-travel player, you can the home games you can stay at home and wear the uniform, but I don't think you can travel with the team. So I know the rules change all the time. So it's just an interesting topic because Caleb is one of the guys I have done a segment on. So it's not like it just come out of thin air. And it was kind of weird tonight that somebody just responded to that segment I did almost 9 months ago today as I'm writing this segment, explaining to me why Caleb probably would never play at Colorado. And I responded back to him saying I'm actually working on a segment about him right now. So Caleb is a guy I like. I like watching him. Like I said, I follow his channel and they give him some attention. At least the first year they did on Well Off Media and reach the people. And he comes across as a good, hardworking kid. And I love players like that. So I'm just interested in what he's going to do. I talk a lot about not going into the portal, going into the portal. He's a perfect example of if you watch my segment before when I named 15 things that you should do before you go into the portal. This is a perfect example. He can weigh all of his options. Do I want to stay here and get this experience at Colorado with my family, with my dad, etc.? I think his brother and all of them are there, or do I want to try to go off and play football at another school, probably obviously a smaller school with nothing promised to me? Do I want to go off and try that experience? I don't think he's sitting there, and I can't speak for him, with NFL aspirations. And that's what I talked about in my 15 questions. Are you ready to say, okay, the NFL is not in my future. Let me just enjoy this experience. It's exactly why I wrote that segment. And it's weird because it's not getting a lot of views right now, but I think it's very important, and I think it's some very good points made in that. So I'm pulling for Caleb. I am a fan of Caleb's, and I'm a fan of players like that. Um, and I'm really hoping and wishing he gets an opportunity, but at the same time, I do understand by watching Dion and all those guys that the players that they're bringing in, it's going to be hard to find time for him, and that's just the reality of it. So we're going to kind of sit back and watch and see what happens and hope the best for him. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough if I'm being honest. So let's see. And as I said in one of my segments, sometime this year is not your year. The first year is not your year. The second year is not your year. The third year is not your year. It may be your fourth year. If you have a fifth year, it may be your fifth year. That's part of the patience. And when I played, we had to have that patience because we didn't do a lot of transferring, and a lot of us didn't even know probably we could, and if we could, how to do it, or etc. So that's been my segment on Caleb Mathis. Basically, what's the plan for him, or what's his plan at this point? He's a sophomore, and they're retooling at your position. You didn't play a lot the first year. I think you got 9 receptions, if I'm not mistaken, out of the whole season last year. I know in 2 games he had some receptions. You didn't play at all this year. So, what do you think? And I would love to know that. It's been Hunt 919 Truth to Sports. Ride with me. 9 Truth to Sports. Ride with me.